I've been standing here glassing with this while we've been talking, and I'm kind of falling in love with this glass. And the big reason is it has the edge-to-edge clarity, but the eyepiece, it allows me to actually like plant on the scope and not float as much as the STC.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest complaint with the STC is the floating.
Yeah.
So, and that causes fatigue. Like, I end up using it way less because I'm not in the glass as much because it's fatiguing, and I go back to my binos. But this, I'm like panning. I'm really enjoying like just looking at the country. I'm not like struggling to keep my eye in the glass. Like, it's really nice.
This is an excellent compact spotting scope. Honestly, I did a review between this and the Swarovski STC, and it was splitting hairs between the two. There's no perfect scope, and each one had their own pros and cons, right? With this scope, what I really like about it, well, one, the fine focus knob right here. You have the main focus knob, and then you have the fine focus knob. So you have that dual focusing mechanism, and it just makes for smooth, buttery transitions when you're going from 17 to 40 power, or maybe you're shifting your focus onto something more distant or something up close. You can just focus very nicely and smoothly with this. When you're reaching out to various distances and you really start to reach out, once you start to get further out, you're gonna notice that the fine focus with this dual focus knob is really beneficial, especially if you're digiscoping. You're not gonna see the shake as much as you would with the barrel type focuses. So that is an advantage of this scope, is the dual focus mechanism. And I would say that Kowa in particular does this very well. Other spotting scopes like the Vortex or Hawk, I'm trying to think of some other ones. There's a couple other of the lower end models that try to imitate the Kowa dual focusing system, and it just feels a lot more loose. There's a lot more play. It doesn't have the same adjustment and finesse that Kowa puts in their dual focusing knob. So I just really wanted to emphasize that they do this the best, and it really is a game changer as far as being able to focus, and especially changing focuses a lot. So if you're birding and you're looking into a tree and then that bird flies off, you can really, crank down the magnification and adjust your focus fast with this system. So I really like that. Now, another cool thing about this spotting scope is that it's 17 to 40 power. This gives you a pretty good magnification range that is going to be great for anything from 9.2 feet, which is the close focusing distance for the scope, or say you're looking at elk or deer or a bighorn sheep or mountain goat and you're 1,500 yards out. You're going to be able to get a good idea of what that animal is as far as size and quality. You're going to be able to see those details with a 17 to 40 power magnification. I think that's kind of the sweet spot with these compact spotters. And then also something you got to take into consideration is that because they're compact, they have a smaller objective lens, right? This compact spotting scope has a 55 millimeter objective, so it allows for plenty of light. It has a 3.2 millimeter exit pupil at 17 power, and then it goes down to 1.4 at 40 power. So these still work pretty good in low light situations. Now, once you start getting into those last 15 minutes of light, and we're talking like an hour past sunset, right? Maybe an hour and a half, depending on what time of year it is. But that's when you're gonna start to notice some degradation, having that smaller objective lens and that smaller exit pupil. But for most purposes and for hunting and just for viewing wildlife, this magnification range and the light gathering capability is going to be perfect. And for most people, honestly, for most hunters, There's a lot of hunters that I see when I'm out that are leaving, at sunset, it's still light out when they're walking off the mountain. For most people, in reality, it's probably going to work just fine. That's another thing that I want to hit on with this optic is it's fluorite crystal glass, and it's one whole piece of fluorite crystal glass, so it's not just coated with fluorite crystal glass. Kowa actually builds their glass in a lab in Japan, and it's made in-house. So that's pretty cool that they do that, and I really appreciate the overall glass quality. It's got excellent edge sharpness, and it's got edge-to-edge clarity. It's probably the best out of all the compact spotting scopes that I've seen, and I even talk about that in my Swarovski STC versus Kowa TSN-55 review, so definitely check that out. I'll put that in a link below if you're comparing the two scopes. But as far as overall field of view and edge sharpness, the Kowa takes the cake. So the Kowa field of view is 192 feet at 1,000 yards, and then it shrinks down to 105 feet at 1,000 yards at 40 power. Sorry, I kind of slowed down there. I had to think about that. I also really appreciate the new TE11WZ2 eyepiece. This is actually the fixed version of Kowa's award-winning TE11WZ eyepiece. I also wanted to talk about the overall length and weight of this optic. Now, the overall length when I measured it out was 10.8 inches. And then as far as weight goes, if you take off the eye cups, or basically the objective lens cover and the ocular cover, this optic weighs 34.14 ounces on my scale. Kowa has it listed as 33.8 ounces. And then if you were to add in the eye cups, or the ocular lens and the objective lens cap, that's going to weigh 34.96 ounces. So if you're really counting ounces there, this is the lightest scope on the market. And it's well, I wouldn't say the best scope, but it is one of the top 2 scopes on the market. Another cool feature that I really liked about Kowa in particular was that they have this built-in sunshade. And if I turn this to you, we take a closer look, you'll see that on the sunshade, you actually have a peep sight. Now, what that peep sight is for is actually to acquire your target at distance. So say I flip this around and picture binoculars being on here, right? I go and grab my spotting scope, I set it on, and I have a general idea of where that animal was. I can just take this peep sight over, put it in the right direction, and now I'm lined up. It's pretty easy to find your target. So that is a standout feature that I just wanted to highlight, is the sunshade and the built-in peep sight. I think that really sets this optic apart from Swarovski. The STC doesn't include a sunshade or a peep sight. Another thing that I wanted to mention that I might not have mentioned is that on this eyepiece, you have 4 different settings. It just twists nice and smoothly, and then it locks into those 4 different settings. And then this also twists off, so if you need to clean it or get closer to that eyepiece, you can. And you can just put that back on, and then it locks into place. You definitely might want to clean it every once in a while just to get the dirt and debris out of it. I also liked that if I twist this towards the camera here, you actually can get closer to the overall eyepiece here. So you have 17 millimeters of total eye relief, which is plenty for anyone who either wears eyeglasses or doesn't wear eyeglasses. In between 15 and 20 millimeters is that sweet spot. So I've gone over kind of the magnification, the focusing mechanism. I've gone over the eyepiece. We've talked about the objective lens. We've also talked about the sunshade and the peep sight. I guess the only other thing that we could talk about here is the mounting surface. So before Swarovski did their update on the STC with their proprietary Arca plate, Kowa had a major advantage with their mounting plate here. Now, if we take a closer look, I have a Peak Design proprietary Arca mount. This is their proprietary system that works with their Peak Design tripods. It's just a cool little mount, and I use it on my cameras and everything else. So I usually put it on all my optics unless they have an Arca plate already with them. Now, if I unscrewed this and you took a closer look at this mounting surface, it's actually a lot larger than the STC mounting surface, and it has pinholes in it so that you can mount it on there and it's going to lock in place. You're not going to get any play. This whole mounting system works really great, and I haven't had any issues with it. So it mounts to a lot of different tripod adapters, and you shouldn't have any issues with mounting to a tripod. I really appreciate the fact that they put some time and effort into that mounting surface. Another thing that I wanted to mention about the TSN-55S or the TSN-55A is the fact that they have a magnesium housing and there's no rubberized armor over this housing. This is probably to save weight, and then also the only real thing that you're using once you get it mounted on the tripod is this eyepiece and maybe the focus knob. So they did cover this with a rubberized armor, so you do not have to worry about it getting cold on you or hot on you when you're glassing. But if you were to handle this here after it's sitting in the sun or it's sitting out in the cold a long time, it is going to be cold around the main body. If you value optical performance and you value having a compact spotting scope that's lightweight and best in class as far as field of view and edge clarity, then the Kowa TSN-55S or the 55A is the spotting scope for you. This dual focusing knob is probably best in class for digiscoping and for viewing targets out to distance, because once you start to zoom in and actually look at things at a distance, those barrel type focuses, you will notice a little bit more shake. So if you don't want any shake in your video, or you just don't like shake when you're trying to focus in on something, then this is the better option for you as well. You can't go wrong whether you choose the Kowa TSN-55S or the 55A. They're both going to be great spotting scopes. It just depends what type of glassing you like to do and what you prefer. I like the straight angled spotting scope because when I'm glassing with my binocular, I have the same target field of view and acquisition. So I'm looking at that target straight on or down or at an angle. I can basically pop that binocular off and put my spotting scope on and be in the same line of sight as I was with the binocular. Versus the angled, I might have to kind of adjust things, and it just takes a little bit more time to acquire that target. So that's just something to consider if you're trying to choose between the two, right? But overall, this is a great spotting scope and I would recommend it to anyone. If you're trying to decide between the Kowa TSN-55 or the Swarovski ATC STC, definitely check out my comparison video between the two. It's splitting hairs, honestly, and in the end, you just got to kind of go with what you like better ergonomically, and as far as features go, you got to look at that as well and just kind of compare the two and actually just go and try them both out. That's honestly what I recommend. Don't just listen to me, watch some other reviews, read some blog articles, and go to the store and try them out. A lot of these big box stores actually have 30-day money-back guarantees. Go and test them out in the field. Don't damage them. Don't be a jerk about it, but go try them out. And whatever one you don't like, take it back. You know, that might put a dent in your credit card for a little bit, or if you're paying cash, you know, that's something to consider too. But I would highly recommend you go and test this optic out for yourself and just see how awesome it is. As always, thank you so much for watching, and remember, stay connected to the wild. My name is Chris with Ignited by Nature, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video. If you watched it all the way through, I appreciate that as well. If you like this content, you like what I'm putting out, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. Also, I'd like to hear about what spotting scope you like to use. Are you using a compact spotter? And if so, what one are you using? Leave a comment below. I'd like to hear your feedback. Once again, my name is Chris with Ignited by Nature, and until next time, guys and gals.